The conversations on this podcast are between the host and the guest and are not directed at any member of the general public. The information is for your listening pleasure, but is not offering you any personal advice. If you have heard something that you feel may be relevant to yourself, please visit your medical practitioner or mental health provider. Hello and welcome to Life Changes You. I'm Daniel and I'm glad you're here for another week. Today, I have a special guest for you. His name is Bob Doyle, and I'm sure quite a lot of my followers would have heard about him. He's best known for his contribution to the book and film The Secret as a law of attraction expert and coach. So, hello, Bob. How are you?
Hi, Daniel. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's fantastic. Look, I'm fascinated by the law of attraction and how it works. And yeah, I'm just so glad that you could come on the show and tell us a little bit more about it. And I think you do more stuff now about rewiring your brain. And
well, yes. And so it's funny because I absolutely, the whole question about, I love the law of attraction and how it works. 20 years that's what I've been doing is out there talking about the law of attraction and how it works and vibration and energy and resonance and all the tools and the techniques and the release and all the stuff. And because 20 years ago, I had huge aha moments in my own life when I learned about the law of attraction. And I got lit up when I was reading the sciencey part of it, because I'm not really historically a woo-woo guy or anything. My mom was a teacher and that's the house I grew up in. So there was never any talk about any of this stuff. So, but when I learned about it and got excited about it, and then I put this program together about it, just to share my excitement around it, the law of attraction and all, that, hey, this is a thing. It's not just some metaphysical principle. There's something to this. And so I spent 20 years in that conversation because people really want to know about the law of attraction. They see The Secret, they get excited. But then a few years ago, I really woke up to the fact that people they're spending way too much time chasing down the law of attraction instead of deciding who they need to be. To attract those things, to have those things in their life they're wanting to attract. And so, all these programs, all these different opinions, all these different techniques, and it's no wonder there's confusion and people just really have their focus on the wrong place. So now I talk about brain. Basically, my whole message of all the energy and the vibration and all the complexities has been boiled down to one sentence, which is your brain can change.
Yep.
All they need to, and unlike the law of attraction, no one's going to sit there and argue about that with you for hours and ask a million different questions. Well, what about this? Because ultimately, if you're learning or studying the law of attraction and you have transformation as a result of that, it is because your brain was rewired as a result of the practices you were going through. So I'm just finding that it's much easier to get people just to go directly to what rewires their brain rather than having to learn some philosophy and process that in the end, it's just going to do its thing anyway.
Yeah.
And you going in there and trying to figure it out just affects the action you take, the meaning you make out of things. It doesn't really serve you. And that's why I finally changed it.
Right. So what are you doing now then? Because you've got a quiz we're going to do in a little while. So bringing it all back down to the basics then, how do we rewire our brain?
Well, we just have to look at how we got wired in the first place, which was we just kept getting the same information in it over and over and over and over and over. And for the first 7 years of our life, we weren't arguing with anything. We were just saying, I guess that's it. And so whatever the opinions were and the beliefs were of our parents and whoever was around us, they pretty much became ours. Yeah. And that became our truth. But our truth is not the same as the neighbor's truth and that other person's truth. We all have different wiring, which goes into how we define our truth. But that wiring and our truth guides us into taking certain actions or not taking certain actions based on, do we think this is worth whatever, our wiring.
Yeah.
So and it's the actions we take that get the results in our lives. So if we're not getting the results we want in our life, we have to go back to our wiring. What is it that's unconsciously going on? What conversations are we having with ourselves consistently that have got us rationalizing not going forward towards our dreams? We can shine the light on that, which is what the quiz is for. Then people can be conscious about changing that and beginning the rewiring process, which is going to involve different information than you've been giving it, sometimes for decades. So you have to have a realistic expectation of yourself and be gentle on yourself. People get really into, I should have had it by now. I should have figured this out by now. It's like, no, we don't know. We don't know what your wiring is. Let's just do the things and don't slow yourself down by beating yourself up or justifying anything. It's like, my job now is to help people, number one, wake up to their autopilot wiring, and then define how they would like to change it based on what they want in the world, but who they'd really need to be to have those things.
So I guess it's your belief system and having to change it around to suit where you want to go to. And I think with belief, it's actually a lot of people just go, no, it doesn't work. But it does, doesn't it? When you start believing in the things you want to do.
Yeah, here's the thing about belief. I ran up in the law of attraction conversation all the time, because that's definitely something people are feeling like they need to believe in to get it to work. Okay. Yeah. I'm not asking anybody to believe anything that isn't accepted knowledge. Our brain can change. And if you don't believe it, well, then how did you learn anything? You started with nothing. You knew nothing. You could do nothing. Your brain changed to accommodate all the things you can do and know. And if you wanted to start learning Spanish today and you didn't know it, you would study it and study it and study it and study it and study it. And you would make mistakes and you would get negative feedback, but you're committed. So you keep going until the wiring is there and you change. And now you're a person who knows Spanish. So you can't tell me it won't work for you. If you're human and you have a brain, you're ready to do this. You just need to send it different information on a consistent basis, not once an hour or 30 minutes in a meditation and all that. So we're talking about bringing up potentially a lot of discomfort, because when we are changing something significantly, our brain isn't wired for it. It's going to feel uncomfortable, just like when we started learning Spanish and all these other things. So that's to be expected. It's not a sign you're not supposed to do it. So
with self-talk, are we changing the self-talk into a more positive outlook, so that when we're talking to ourselves about these things we're starting to learn, we're changing the way we see it rather than just focusing on the negativity, like the negative feedback if we get something wrong?
Right, absolutely. So we're here to recognize how we respond negatively, and that we respond negatively, and that it's on autopilot based on a lot of information and meaning that we learned from somebody else.
Yeah.
If we would like to, we could create different meaning. So what could that be? It can be anything. We get to make it up. We're making it up now. So why don't we make it up in a way that actually serves us, that empowers us, that moves us forward?
So how do we do that?
Well, first we define where it is we want to go. So most of the people are so stuck on, well, I don't know, but I just don't like this.
Yeah.
And in any conversation of transformation, that isn't going to do anything. In the law of attraction conversation, we'd say, well, if you just keep looking at the problem, you're just attracting more of it, the whole energy thing. But also, if you're looking at solving the problem, you're this person solving problems like the person you've always been. That's never going to change anything. You're trying to work, you're trying to use the current wiring that got you there to change. We need a different brain in action. And we can create that brain using just our imagination as a starting point. We can look out into the world. If we're not really clear where we want to go, well, who inspires us? Why do they inspire us? Are they doing something we'd like to be doing? How would it be to have some of those person's traits? You don't have to be them, but maybe there are some traits that you see in them that you know that you need to develop if you're going to be that person. So why not just start developing those traits? You don't wait until you're that person. That person became that person by developing those traits and being that person. He didn't become that person because he suddenly got all this stuff, or she.
Yeah.
It's you are being your way into your future.
Yeah, I like that because, a lot of people, I think nowadays especially, is they see someone they want to be and they just think, oh, I'm going to be that person. And there's a lot of learning between A and B, isn't there? And a lot of change.
All of those people, they took a journey. Yeah. And the problem with when we learn about the law of attraction, we think we don't have to take the journey. All we got to do is visualize it right, get our vision board right, not think negative for a week or some magic thing will happen. But how can you be that person with that life? Because that requires the experience that person had, the knowledge that person has, the wisdom, the ups, the downs, the whole thing to get there. So if you're looking to bypass all that, that's not how it works. It's not the intention. And it doesn't make it any less cool that we can do it. Yeah. In fact, now you don't have to rely on magic and getting your vibration right. All you really need to do is go, this is biology. This is simple biology. I'm going to feed different information in here. It's going to be uncomfortable at first, but I'm going to keep doing it.
Yep.
And there's people out there who have tools and processes to help me through that. And I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep inspiring myself and reminding myself why I must do this, why it is non-negotiable, like walking was, like learning to talk and read and write and all those things that we were willing to make all those mistakes.
Yeah.
We didn't say the universe doesn't want it for us because we fell down 5 times, but we'll do that when we want to transform ourselves. Well, I've been working at this for 90 days and it's just not 40 years. Sometimes you've been working on this wiring you want 90 days to change it all. That's the unfortunate, again, part of like what the personal development industry has done. Packaging things up and making these ridiculous promises that there's no way they can know how quickly you will transform. Because it's 100% up to you and how intentional you are about changing that wiring and giving up old stories. People just love their stories because it explains to the world why they are where they are and it justifies them. You see, I can't have this because they did this to me and I was there and this and that. Well, you cannot have the aspirations to be that person and hang on to those stories because guess what? That person doesn't tell those stories, has no room for those stories, doesn't need those stories. So you got to give them up. And by the way, they're not true. You only make them true. So tell yourself another not true story about how empowered you are, how awesome things are. Your brain is just doing its thing. You're giving it thoughts. It's wiring it to say, okay, yeah, sure, that's it. So just start replacing it and your life will change because when you start thinking like that future person and start acting as that other person, once you put it out in the world and get it off your vision board and into the world, the world has no choice but to respond differently. You show up differently. They can't just keep doing the same thing they always did. Doesn't make sense. They're going to respond differently and you have created change. Now, all you have to do is keep doing it and let the world adjust. Some people are going to freak out. Who are you right now? What are you doing? And for one of the types, we were talking about the quiz, one of the types that you test for is the people pleaser. And the people pleaser, unfortunately, lets that stop them. The look on their mom's face or the tone in the voice or something that somebody says that makes you feel like, who am I to think I could do this? Or I don't like making them all uncomfortable. So I'm just going to hold back. I see that all the time. Literally, like a tone of somebody's voice will keep someone from following their dream because they don't want anybody uncomfortable. But guess what, people pleaser? Everybody's still uncomfortable. They're just not telling you about it because you're not poking at them telling them about your dreams. And then you have basically committed spiritual suicide by saying, well, I'm just not going to live the life that's in me. I was put into this universe. I've got this spark in me. I don't know what it is. I could do it a million different ways, but I'm going to do it 0 ways. And I'm just going to live some version of my life that makes these people comfortable. And maybe I get to do some things I like. And that's how they do their life. Happens all the time.
And look, you're so correct because about 6 months ago, I had someone contact me and said, I want to do a podcast like you. And I said, great, get started. Because when I started, I had no idea what I was doing. And 2.5 years down the track, I've learned all this stuff. And they go, oh, no, but I want to have as many followers as you. And I go, but you have to work towards it. And every week I'm learning new things about myself that I didn't know, new techniques of the mic and stuff like that. And they're like, no, but I want to be where you are. And it just doesn't happen. You have to just keep working at it. And the amount of stuff I've learned from talking to different guests and setting things up is amazing. And that's what pushes me further forward now.
That's right. The journey can be really, truly, the goal is what's pulling you through the adventure of the journey. That's where all the excitement is, the learning, the ups and the downs and the growth that happens, whether you ever reach that ultimate goal, which, by the way, once you start seeing this stuff work, your goal will most likely evolve and it will continue to evolve. And you may never get to it because it keeps changing. But that following how it's growing, that following the passion takes you through this tremendous growth and this adventure. And you meet all these people and you make all this difference and you put out all this value and you have a life. That is not just about, I'll feel like I succeeded when I get that thing. Like the guy who wants all the followers right away. Dude, take the journey. It's way more fun that way. To be able to say, I started with nothing. For a year, I had 50 downloads. That's it. But I kept going. What a much better story than, somehow it just happened. It's not relatable and it doesn't happen.
No. And I think sometimes in this generation now, we are in that instant generation where they want to be it and they don't want to take the journey, which, some people say to me, oh, the journey. But the journey is what got me to where I am now, talking to you. I wouldn't have spoken to you if I'd done this completely differently or just gone, oh, well, look, I've got 4 downloads, so I'm giving up.
It's truly about being grateful for every step of the journey, including the stuff that we automatically are wired to go, oh, that's bad, or that's negative, or that's a bad negative sign. I shouldn't be doing this. Any of that, those are actually our greatest gifts, because that's when we see with the spotlight on it, are the limits of our wiring. If we truly believe we can't do something like learn a new thing, that's crazy wiring. When we can expose that, and then we go, okay, well, there it is again. What's the other thought? What am I thinking instead? And that's the thing. That's kind of, as I alluded to, the work I do with people is not just telling them that they can do this, because anybody can listen and understand, okay, yes, I'm on autopilot, but what are you going to replace it with? Because you can't just notice it and do nothing, because you'll still just stay stuck. You'll still be right there. You have to have something, some other behavior that now you're going to do instead of the autopilot behavior, to tell your entire body, not just your imagination, what's what now. But we get to start with our brain. Our brain is the reality creation machine. It's just not as magical as a lot of people put it together. That brain that can be programmed, however, can move you into whatever action you need to take if you'll train it to do it. It doesn't just happen overnight. It takes that growth. But if you're committed, and if it's non-negotiable, you'll do what people will consider miracles. Why? Because you don't stop when most people do.
So many people will have a couple of negative experiences and then go, oh no, this isn't going to work for me. But those negative experiences, if you relook at them, you can turn them into a positive and work out why they went wrong and move forward with it. Because I've had loads of ups and downs with this, especially downs where I didn't know what I was doing, and turning that around, then you have that real sense of accomplishment and you move forward.
Yeah. You have to know what doesn't work. Yeah. You have to, and especially if you're, going to be helping people later or whatever, like people like you and me, we generally we're leading something and then we're helping people in our wake. We're learning, we're taking a journey, and then whatever we're learning, it turns into the teaching of some kind. Yeah. Without that journey, we got nothing to teach. I can't just wake up one day and say, I want to be a law of attraction teacher, and not go through the journey of learning what works, what doesn't, and seeing every possible thing and getting every possible question you can imagine. It took a long time, and it took a lot of, but it was exciting. It was fun to learn. It was just like, wow, I never would have, because my whole career path was, and I still love, broadcasting. So the whole fact that I'm even in this industry is crazy. And that I've stayed in it for 20 years, because there's a piece of it, because it really is ultimately, whether it's law of attraction or neuroplasticity, I want people to creatively self-express. That's what we're here to do. We are, the universe itself is creative in nature. We are an extension of the universe with the ability to create, the desire to create. So, and if we don't create, if we don't expand, because we've told ourselves we can't, or whatever else is going on in our brain, then we feel it. We feel it with depression. We feel it with disease and anger and resentment and all of those things, because this thing that's burning to get out, we've rationalized not doing it. And that's not natural. Natural is doing it, going for it. We were given everything we needed to do it, except that we were told in the first 7 years that there are all these limits to it.
And by being told that, we have hesitation, don't we? And we always go, oh, am I sure I can do this? And sometimes you can think yourself out of it because you're so worried about making a mistake or it not working. And we have to sort of let that feeling go and trust in ourselves.
You almost always will talk yourself out of it. That's the thing. That's the whole thing about personal development in general, because it's become this industry of self-help, which great on paper. But the problem is that when it's really just you, then all you've got is your wiring, your experience, your meaning-making machine. Yeah. And once you reach the limits of that, you're done. And so every new piece of information or every challenge, you're only going to process through that machine, which is going to keep you where you are.
Yep.
That's why you must have something from the outside showing you 12 million different ways to look at something that you think there's only one. So that you can begin to see, oh, yeah, I see. And then you just play with it. The thing about imagining your day and imagining your life and imagining, because people are worried about getting it wrong. Forget wrong. You get to play. It's your imagination. It can be as crazed as you want. Run every possible scenario of who you'd like to be in the world. Eventually, you'll settle into the one that really feels natural, that really feels good, that feels like a genuine expression of who you are. But, you imagine all kinds of things until you get it right. You get to do that. It's free.
What you're saying is perfectly true. And I'm thinking of so many things while you're talking, because I had a teacher when I was 8 and she told all the boys in our class we would never get to be anything, but always push the girls up, which was great for them, but not for us, because when I was 40 and I started doing my study and counseling degree, diploma, I kept thinking in my head, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. And it was only that I had a mentor who was helping me through it and realized that and said, damn, we've got to change this, because that's locking you away from everything. You don't believe in yourself. And once we got over that stumbling block, I started flying through all that study, because I started to believe in myself and I'd got rid of that limiting belief that I was not good enough.
Yeah. Let me share this with you too, because people do struggle with this concept of believing in themselves, and they think they need to believe in themselves. But here's the, and when they can tap into it, then it's fantastic. But a lot of people get stuck there because their history of themselves hasn't given them any evidence that they should believe in it.
Yeah.
What they need to believe in is their potential. They need to believe in the fact they just need to forget believing. They just need to know that they're a human being with a brain that is ready to change. There's nothing to believe. It's just know. Just know. And so you don't need to believe in yourself, because yourself, that is who you've been being, you feel like has failed you. It's not who you want to be. So forget that. Create a new one and believe in the idea that you can be that. You just need to give it different information.
Yeah. I've counseled people over the years and I've seen what you're saying, how they're stuck in that position, and trying to get them to see the light and see the differences that they can do. And when they do see that, it's almost like an explosion in their brain has gone, wow, I didn't realize I could do all these things. I thought I was just this. And now I see I can do all these other things.
Yes. And that is great, because that builds momentum. And that's why your vision always evolves. Yeah. Because when you realize that, wow, if I just do this, I can do really amazing things. I've been thinking too small.
Yeah. Definitely.
Most people do. And even their small dreams seem intimidating to them, because again, they think that there's some luck that has to happen, or they have to get some mystical thing right, or whatever it is. No, they just need to learn what they need to learn to be the person they need to be. It's so freaking simple. And that's why I love it so much. I don't have to spend 45 minutes answering law of attraction questions about energy in a million different scenarios. Yeah, but what about this? Forget all that. I mean, it's like, look, do you have a brain? Yes, sir, I do. Do you want something different? Yes. Are you ready to put new thought? It's just simple. And so I can get results with people the very same day I start working with them, because all I have to do is get them to take a different action than they usually do. We work a little bit about what would that mean if you could be that all the time, extrapolate that and go out there and try it. And the moment they do it, then they realize, oh yeah, I can get a different result. And then it begins. They didn't have to wait for 3 weeks to manifest a cup of coffee, which I've seen people get excited about, and great. I love coffee too, but it shouldn't take that long. You can just go to the store and buy it.
Yeah. No, look, I love what you're saying, and you're exactly right. I like the just know and just do, because a lot of people do think that things are going to happen if they just wait for them. And I think 10 times out of 10, it's not going to happen if you don't put the work in to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, it's action. It's like if sometimes work makes it seem oppressive or not fun. It's just action. And even action seems like work for some people. They think of it synonymous with action. Just think about it as energy in motion. I mean, the universe is constantly expanding. Atoms are jumping around all over the place. We take an action. Stuff happens. Nature happens. Stuff happens. Just all in motion. It's just think about just the dance, and it's always going on, and that we're just a big, exciting part of it.
I like what you said about self-development, because I think people will buy hundreds and hundreds of books and read them all and then go, but why hasn't my life changed? It's because what you've read is great, but you need to action it. You can't just read it and then sit with it and think it's just going to happen.
This would be a good time to talk about the quiz a little bit, because now we've already really kind of talked about the people pleaser, and now you're talking about one of the other types, which is the seeker. So just real quick, the quiz is a multiple choice thing. It takes 60 seconds to do. It's free. And it tells you what I'm calling your transformation personality type. And it's just based on my 20 years working with people in this transformation conversation and seeing sort of traits in various personalities that tend to self-sabotage. Yeah. And again, the premise here is that what your autopilot behavior is, you've got a better chance of changing it because now you can be conscious about it. So the quiz is there to show that. So you test, and then you are one of these 4 types. And then those types have different traits, which may or may not sabotage you. If you're this type, it's not, number one, it's not bad. And it doesn't mean you're going to have a problem. It's just, if you do have a problem, these are places to look. So we already talked about the people pleaser pretty much completely. The people pleaser, just instead of just bowing to what everybody's saying, obviously the thing they need to do is just go for it and succeed. And it's not that, it's great to think that then the others will get inspired and see that it's possible for themselves and they will do it too. You don't know that. But when you do it, you will attract a whole new group of people that'll be a part of the process. You'll meet new people, other groups. You'll have now people who edify you and don't look at you, like you're crazy because you want to grow. Yeah. So anyway, that's wrapping up the people pleaser. But what you were just talking about is the seeker type, the people who go from program to program, book, seminar. They're really committed to changing. They want to. They love personal development, but they love it so much that they just chase and chase and chase. And if you think about what's going on, it's like one philosophy, another philosophy. And why do they change? A lot of times it's because they get the other one, the next one seems easier, right? Faster, better promises, whatever. Or now they've reached a level of discomfort in their growth and they think, oh, this isn't working. This one's making a better promise. Whatever it is, they jump around. And so no real wiring can complete. And especially if they're doing what you said and just simply reading and not doing anything. Like if you're not doing anything in act, of course, how are you going to rewire? Like it's just common sense that it takes you going out there and putting this stuff into motion. So the seeker just needs to settle. If something, they go, this one really resonates with me. Great, stick with it until you've gotten all the growth you can out of it. And it's not because you get uncomfortable. It's because you'll know, you tune in with yourself. You'll know when it's time to take on the next thing. Yeah. So that's the seeker. Another type is the wizard. And the wizard is where I came from, the law of attraction conversation. And I do feel like I need to say that I'm not anti-law of attraction. The point is you don't need to focus on it. Yeah. It's going to take care of itself. It is a thing. It's all the things I've been saying it is. But I realize you don't need to understand all that for it to work. You need to understand you for it to work. Yep. So the wizard, though, they love the ritual, they love the vision boards, they love the alchemy, the I am manifesting, right? They love that. and they're doing all the things that you need to do, like the visual, all of those exercises, they help. They help the rewiring process, provided they move you into action that is in alignment with the person who is having all, this vision. It's really about seeing not so much the stuff in your future, but who are you? That's the most important thing. That's whose vision you should be creating, not yours. Yours might be coming from lack. Yours might be coming from fear. I want all this money because of all these problems. What if you were the person who didn't have these problems anymore? What would they want? That's your vision. Yeah. So, all right. So the wizard just needs to, move into action and realize that all of the insights they're getting, the visions they're getting, the pushes they're getting from the universe are to push them into being something and doing something and they can keep doing all of their wizardry and it will help them as long as they do their physical part. Yep. So let's see. So now it's finally the skeptic, which is what I would have tested for when I first started this journey. And it's not that the skeptic that I'm talking about. And again, there's nothing wrong with being skeptical. It stops you from doing a lot of stupid stuff. But what I'm talking about is the skeptic who basically looks at everything that comes their way and asks themselves the question, why won't this work for me? Right. And if anybody asks themselves a question like that, they're going to get those answers. They've opened up their brain to find those answers. They're going to search their database. They're going to compare what they're looking at, all of their experience, and they're going to get answers to here's why it won't work for you. And so then they don't do it. And their ego likes it because now they don't have to be proven wrong. They get to be right because it doesn't work because they never did it. But that's the logic of the ego. Yeah. Right. Or at least they don't have to look stupid. Yeah. But of course, then they never grow because they rule out everything that comes along because the ego just wants to stay right where it is, and it will rationalize all of those things if you keep asking the question like that. So, of course, I just invite the skeptic to ask the opposite question, which is, how could this work for me? And you still get to be a skeptic. You still are using your intellect. You're still using logic. You're not letting anybody take you for a ride, but you're asking a better question. How could this work for me? And then you'll find those things. And it's not that you won't assess what the downsides are, but most skeptics don't even look at that, the positive. What if you looked at the positive first? What could my life be if this worked? What could this do for my life? And how could it work? How could this system, how could this philosophy, how could it work for me? Like, come on, skeptic who's so smart, use that brain to come up with those answers. And I'm talking to myself here because I definitely was a person who was like, first, why won't it work? It's amazing I'm in this spot, given that. But I had reached a point where it's like, well, this thinking isn't doing me any good. Like this skepticism, I'm getting absolutely nowhere. So what if I just let go of it and see what happens? And that's what I did.
And look where you are today.
Here I am talking to you.
Well, that sounds like, so the people just go to your website and fill in this questionnaire and it will give them the answer to who they are.
Well, it'll show them traits of their autopilot behavior. Who they are is completely up to them. And that's a tenet of what I say is because so many people, and I've seen this in the law of attraction and metaphysical community, so many people spending sometimes decades trying to find out who they really are. What is their purpose? What am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to be? And I'm like, man, oh man, you get to decide. Yeah. This is not something to search for. It's right there. Who do you want to be? What inspires you? What's that spark inside? Let's play with your imagination. How could you live a life and be that spark? It's not a trick question.
What I like about what you just said then is that I know from counseling, a lot of people would come and expect me to tell them who they are and what they should be doing. And I'd be like, it's not up to me. It's for you to create and me to just facilitate your journey and help you with what you need to do. Oh, no, but you should give me the answers. And I go, no one can give you the answers. It's inside you.
Yeah. It's the problem is people get challenged by the idea that they need to discover it instead of create it. If they have to discover it, then they feel like they've got to have some weird gift, insight, flash of whatever, some magical, I've discovered it. I've done the thinking, I've done the work. And there's none of that. Yeah. If you are trying to discover, then you're working on the premise that you don't know what it is. You don't have it. And that's what you're telling yourself over and over. And that's your wiring and that's your truth. So you spend your whole life on a search instead of, okay, this is who I am. I'm deciding it. No, you're not. I am because I decided it. You can't stop me. You can't stop me. You can't stop me. I may have to learn. I may make some mistakes. You may not like it, but I can be whoever I want every single day if I want to.
What you've just said then is one of the most powerful things I've heard in ages, because it is just the person has to create and become and be and make the mistakes. And I think in this era, we are so terrified of making a mistake. And yet out of those mistakes comes huge growth, because you realize I don't want to do that again. And I learn from it. And now I'm going to do it this way, I say all the time that if the inventors of today approach their inventions like we approach personal development, we would be in a cave. You have to make sometimes countless mistakes to chisel away at it. Depending on your starting point, where you were born, what the limitation, what the beliefs are, you may have some work to do, but let's do it. Let's do it. You've got this miraculous machine that's ready to do it. The thing that's going to slow you down is you telling yourself that it's going to be hard, that you don't know how, blah, blah, blah. You still might do it, but it's going to take you 10 times longer because you're telling yourself how hard it is. That happens to me all the time. People come in and they're like, I'm going to work really hard on this. How about we have fun with it? Yeah.
How about we have fun with it? Because it should be fun. We're creating your freaking future.
Yeah. When you're doing something that you love, no matter if you're making mistakes or not, it gets easier because you've got that passion for it. So you want to keep creating it. It's like this with the podcast. I want to keep doing it and meeting all the people and doing everything because it's something I'm passionate about. Someone said to me, but you don't make any money out of it. And I go, so? It's not about making money. It's about what resources we can put out there, the conversations we can have that can help other people who are listening.
The whole thing about the money obviously is a big one. I mean, it's great if you can make money doing the thing you love, but if you can make money to what's the word I'm looking at? Basically afford to do the thing you love, that's fine too. As long as you're doing the thing you love, who cares? If you're being supported to do it. Now, if you hate your job, if you hate it, Well, that's something else. But if you do this job and it supports you in doing your dream, who cares? That's such a thing we've learned, and a way that people judge it. Well, why are you spending all that time and not making any money? Well, because it brings me a lot of joy that you don't have, because you're not doing it. My example of that is the ukulele. I love playing the ukulele, and I've been doing it for 12 years now. And I practice every day, sometimes an hour, 2 hours. And if I'm learning a new song, I don't know what I'm learning. I'm making mistakes. I'm figuring it out. It's like I'm making mistake after mistake after mistake. But my philosophy now, because I know, thank God for the mistakes, because now I'm going to make 1,000 of them and then I'll have it, and then it's in my body and it's in my fingers. And that's what I've seen, when I've committed to loving the process of it and loving practicing and loving not getting it right, because then getting it right is so much sweeter. And in that process, you've learned all those ancillary things, right, that come into play in the moment. Now I'm a better musician in general because of all these subconscious things that I've learned that weren't even what I was after to learn, like positions in my finger in the body. I know this is an abstract example, but you can apply it to anything.
Yeah.
Just about the repetition and finding the joy in the repetition rather than going, come on, when am I going to know how to do this?
And I think also with people who are focused so much on making the money, they're not actually enjoying the process getting to the money, because, in 10 years' time, I might be still doing the podcast and still not made any money, or I might be making money. But either way, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And that then makes the rest of my life flow through a lot happier, because I'm getting to do the things I want to do.
Yes. And that's really all that matters. And who cares what people from the outside looking in have to say about it and what their judgment is of happiness and how much money you should have. And all of that stuff, that's 100% up to you. When you decide that making money is going to be, and here's why it's an important part of you doing this podcast, when that's who you need to be to have the life you want, then you will do the things and it will happen. It's just it will be a decision you make if you ever even make it.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of people really worry about what people are going to think about their journey, like that they're not ambitious enough. I'm not saying that you're not ambitious. I'm saying that people have this idea that you should do, you've got so much talent, you should go do this. I can't believe you're not fulfilling your that's your perception of what I should be doing. Why does it make you happier that I'm more successful? Or, in some cases, it's just like, I'm loving this. I got no complaints. What are you after me for? That kind of thing. So it's just funny how we learn to judge, and how when we're not happy with ourselves, how we'll project that unhappiness on other people and create a bunch of people pleasers,
Well, look, I have to say that when I was going to do this podcast with you, I was a bit skeptical because I wasn't too sure on law of attraction and stuff like that. But listening to you has just made me go, wow. There's so much in my head and so many things that I'm thinking about now that I probably wouldn't have thought of before I spoke to you.
Well, good. That's exactly what I want, is for people to think of things they're not used to thinking, because that's the whole idea. We want to create new thought process, new autopilot stuff, and just more possibility, and that comes with new thoughts and breaking paradigms and stretching your comfort zone and just, again, like letting your imagination go. It's the greatest gift we have. It's unique to us. We get to imagine things that haven't happened. We get to imagine what they feel like, what they smell like, what they sound like, the whole thing. That is not a freaking accident.
If we look at people like Steve Jobs, for example, and Bill Gates, they used their imagination. They came up with something that wasn't around and changed the face of the world. And we don't have to be that high, but we can do those things. We can make changes. We can encourage other people and encourage ourselves. I think sometimes we put ourselves down.
Almost all the time.
Yeah.
That's the most brutal, conversation of all. Even more than what is out here. It's what's going on in here, because that's what's rooted. That's what's on autopilot. That's what's really guiding your behaviors and getting your results. So, but again, the more you recognize it, instead of going, God, there it is again, you get to go, wow, there it is again. Like, wow, I am such a freaking robot. I can't believe you can be fascinated with it.
Yeah.
In awe of how programmable we are, and actually grateful because good. Well, now I'm going to put in different code and get different results. Yeah. It's really something to be celebrated, and just kind of look at your life. And if it's been a challenge, you just go, wow, okay, hell of a journey. What do I want to do from here?
Brilliant. Well, I think that's a perfect place to end up, because that just ends it on such a positive note.
Good. I don't want to mess that up.
Well, thanks, Bob. It's been absolutely brilliant talking to you. And, that's amazing. I'm sure. So people just go to your website. So I'll add the website to the show notes, and then they can go and do your quiz, and they can find out more information from you at your website, which will be on there. And, thank you for coming in. Not coming in because we're on Zoom. But
that would have been something. That would have been a heck of a journey. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been a long journey here to Australia.
Wow. Is that where you are? Okay. Wow. Yeah. No. I'm glad we got Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, Daniel. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Well, that was another episode of Life Changes You. If you want to contact us, we're available on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we also have a website, lifechangesyou.com.au. So until next time, take care of each other, and thanks for listening.